Stand by to initiate release sequencer. On my mark. 5.
We're on express elevator to hell. Going down.
2. 1. Mark.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mark, a.k.a. Derringer. Today is Sunday, February 23rd, and you are listening to episode 249 of the Instant Action Podcast, your weekly source for Planetside news and information. As always, I'm brought to you by great listeners like you via the Support the Show tab on instantactionpodcast.com. So first up this week, I need to give a big shout out to a new patron over on Patreon. This is Vanifac. I want to say a big thank you and give a big shout out to you. This week's episode is for you. Other than that, what's been going on with me this week? Like I said on last week's show, my wife is off in Guatemala. I am home alone. It's quite an interesting turn of events. I don't think that I've ever been home alone for this amount of time, and she's not coming back until the following week. So I've got at least another 10 days more until she comes home. So it's really quiet here. I can play all the video games I want. Unfortunately, I need to cook my own meals and stuff I cook a lot of my own meals anyways, but grocery shopping by myself, meals by myself, and shit like that. So it's very different at home, I do have to say. And she's only been gone a couple days, and I miss her dearly already. But like I said, that means I've gotten to play as much Planetside 2 as I wanted to, and it's nice that this weekend is the Members Double XP weekend, so I've certainly been taking advantage of that, as well as basically doing whatever the hell I please. So I'm envious of all you single folks out there whose this is your daily life. But enough about me. What's in store for this week's show? Well, first, I have the February 21st PTS update to talk about. We're getting closer to the Escalate update dropping. It's supposed to drop this week. And this update has a slew of changes, fixes, and additions to talk about. After that, I want to talk about the recent Polygon article about the Escalation update because it gives some explanations on bigger things that are coming, i.e. Planetside 3. Then I want to pile on top of Dr. Moneypants' call for Steam reviews and finish this week talking about the Russian and Chinese translation requests. So strap in as we hot drop into another episode of the Instant Action Podcast. So first up, like I said this week, the February 21st PTS update. This is the second of the two big updates that has dropped onto the PTS in as many weeks. And this is going to be the final one before we get the Escalation update, because don't forget, that update is supposed to drop this week. I believe Wednesday of this week is when we should be seeing the Escalation update coming to live servers. So obviously next week's show is going to be all about Escalation. But in the meantime, like I said, there was another PTS update. Starting with Empire Strength and Continent Meta, they have removed all the mid-continent events from the PTS. This is aerial anomalies, maximum pressure, capture biolabs, all those various mid-continent events are gone, and the plan is to also remove them from live once the Escalation update drops. So if you have not been a fan of these different mid-continent events, at least on the PC side for now, you're not going to have to deal with them for much longer. I know there's a love-hate relationship with the max alerts right now, but those are going to be gone completely. Also, some changes to territory control. First, when you reach 41% territory control, it's going to award 5 Empire Strength. And then territory control of 44% is going to additional 5, and it's going to keep going for 48, 52, 56, and ultimately at 60 territory. So that gives you a way to earn 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and 30 Empire strength as you control various, or as your faction controls various territory on the map itself. And as you can see, that's almost a whole third of the way towards the 100 Empire strength to actually launch the ultimate meltdown alert. In addition to the territory control, when the Bastion Fleet Carrier is hovering over a contested territory, the faction will earn progress towards unlocking 15 Empire strength. It's a process that they state takes 17 minutes to complete, and progress made towards that objective is not depleted when a Bastion Fleet Carrier is destroyed. So it seems like you just need to keep a Bastion Fleet Carrier over a contested territory for about 17 minutes, and that's going to give your faction an additional 15 Empire strength. And it seems like that's cumulative. It doesn't say that it's not cumulative, so I would expect that you could spawn a Bastion, have it hovering over contested territory for 17 minutes, earn 15 strength. When the Bastion's destroyed, a new Bastion can come and continue to do that. Again, it doesn't say that there's any limitation to that. They also changed 3 of the main locations and on continents to have different Empire strength benefits. Starting on Esamir, the ISA tech plant in the center, they reduced its benefit from 30 down to 25. The Ascent on Amrish, its Empire strength was increased from 15 to 25. And also the Crown on Indar had its benefit increased from 15 to 25. So clearly, ISA felt like it was too much, or it offered too much Empire strength, while as the Ascent and the Crown offered too little. And the dev note regarding all this is that this is their first pass towards continent progression, and they will be making some other adjustments and doing some UI cleanup in the future. They did say that the Bastion power projection will earn Empire strength more quickly and in smaller chunks, instead of the lump sum they're sending to the PTS, but that's going to happen in a later game update. And they or at least are aware that there will most likely be more tuning done post-launch, because they don't want continents to feel like they're either rotating too quickly or too slowly. And they also don't want to rely on a Bastion to appear on every continent for it to be sent into that meltdown alert. Next up is resource gain in the world itself. Now, note that everything I'm going to mention right now was listed in the last PTS update, but didn't actually make it to the PTS update because it was bugged. They are all working properly now. And those are, when a meltdown alert triggers, the faction that started it receives an immediate 5-time tick of resources from any bases they own. When it ends, the faction that won also receives a 5 times tick of resources from bases they own. And also unstable meltdown alerts do the same, but only with a 2 times tick of resources from bases owned. And then finally, at the end of the alert, all outfit ownership is wiped from the continent itself. Moving on to the Bastion Fleet Carrier, there were some changes first to its movement. So now the Bastion will rotate in place towards its waypoint and won't move forward until it's actually facing that direction. They increased the rotation speed slightly. If you fly a Bastion too close to the mountain range of the Ascent on Amrish, it will push the Bastion away from it, because obviously that's higher than the Bastion's flight ceiling. It no longer pitches up and down while ascending or descending, and instead remains level. Movement waypoints will also now be rejected if you place one too close to its current position, and they also fix some other various movement-related issues and things that they considered exploits with the Bastion itself. Moving on to the weak points, soft points, and the response fighters for the Bastion. Weak points now have much more health, and they have been given a shield bar that regenerates up to 25% of their total health pool while out of combat. So that means it's not a bad idea to move your Bastion out of combat if it's getting absolutely wrecked. Waypoints should also now properly despawn when the Bastion does. The Mauler turrets, these are the waypoint-controlled turrets, are now more powerful and deal damage in a larger area. The turrets should also now always correctly face the direction of their shots. All turrets overall have been given new cameras that showcase the weapon more, and they've increased the angles of the turrets. The response fighters, these are the interceptors, are now custom designed with specialty ESF loadouts. They're fitted with an ejection seat, rank 1 composite armor, rank 1 decoy flares, quick charge fuel tanks, and the default nose gun variant, but it also has a higher magazine size. If you're playing an NSO character, you'll eject yourself into the interceptor of the currently assigned faction. So if you're playing VS in the VS's Bastion on an NSO, you'll launch in a Scythe. They're leaving the door open to do more with the interceptor variants in the future, and they also could give the possibility of customizing them personally with camos, decals, and other things like the current ESFs have. There were also some other miscellaneous Bastion changes. So they fixed an issue where it could get into a bad state when the user summons a different vehicle as the Bastion spawns. You can no longer interact with the terminal while continents are unstable. The icon no longer pops in and out when it's on the edge of the mini-map. Captains also have now a new first-person and third-person camera on the Bastion. If you now take your Bastion out of bounds, it's going to destroy it, and they removed some other collision from the model itself. They also made some changes to Sanctuary, starting with the environment. They fixed a bunch of geometry, visibility, and texture issues. They're still continuing to work on the outer ring, and the skybox itself has received some significant visual changes. They made some changes to the vendors inside, starting with the nascent expeditions rep. It will now properly deduct resources when you trade to her, but they did add a test server only item that will instantly restock all outfit resources when you purchase it. The expedition coordinator will notify players when the quote-unquote boys are on expedition if you have no completed expeditions available for a debrief. And the nascent expeditions rep and the coordinator will now reject players who aren't in an outfit or don't have expedition asset use permissions. Moving on to Desolation. When you complete the Outfit War alert, the continent will be locked to the victorious factions, and every player will be kicked out after 30 seconds. They've added some placeholder particle effects for the continent lock at every obelisk location. They will make them more thematic and better showcase an outfit's victory at a later date. Also, the victorious outfit will receive a free Bastion Fleet Carrier if they don't already have one stocked, which is actually pretty cool. So this is actually a real reward we're seeing to winning on Desolation. And they also fixed some other graphical issues, particularly in the command centers themselves. Now, if it wouldn't be a update without other miscellaneous changes and fixes. So they had a merit balance, which now updates dynamically on vendor screens. You'll no longer become stuck if you're in the rumble seat of the Flash XS1 as it despawns. You can now drive the Flash XS1 out of the warp gate area if it's initially summoned there. The unlocked button now changes to unlocked after a user reaches the inventory cap on the Flash X1. You can no longer start crafting Bastion components if you already have a Bastion Fleet Carrier stocked or under construction. Expeditions can now only be crafted one at a time. And finally, they removed the Biolab snowy visuals. They've basically reverted them. And I think that's really just to fix the busted textures on the floor and stuff like that in the Biolabs. There are a few known issues. First, that the Bastion can get into a state where its collision or location in the world appears differently to different players. Also, anvil collision may stay in place if players are atop it and will disappear only when they leave. And finally, there are some issues with Sanctuary's frame rate that are still being looked into. So there you go. There is the entire February 21st PTS update. And really, I think the last one that we're going to see before all this stuff actually comes to live later this week. So second up this week, there was a Polygon article recently about the Escalation update that I just wanted to take a few minutes and actually talk about. Because within this article, they talked a lot of quotes came from Andy Seitz. And one of the big things that they talked about in this article is that there were rumors of Planetside 3, and they'd been circulating for a while. There was a lot of newfound intensity in October of 2019. That's because at that time, Andy seemed to confirm that the game had been greenlit in a blog post that he put out. But according to this article and according to quotes by Andy, that is not the case. So all of us that were thinking Planetside 3 was currently in development, that's not the case. So Andy's quote in this is, "I did not officially announce that Planetside 3 was in development." And he told them this during a telephone interview last month. He did say, though, that his team is putting all its energy into reinvigorating Planetside 2, which obviously is available on PC and PS4. And he says, quote, "Like all games and franchises that have been running for almost 17 years like Planetside, we're always thinking about the future. We're not by any means ready to start talking about Planetside 3 in any sort of extensive detail. Our emphasis is really shoring up Planetside 2, end quote." He further goes on to say, quote, "There will be no Planetside 3 if we don't continue supporting Planetside 2, and we don't continue showing that the Planetside experience is unmatched and amazing. So our focus right now in the short term is continuing to reinforce that with the live game. In due time, we'll be ready to start talking about the future, which would be a Planetside 3. So, or end quote. So as you can see, there's no talks about Planetside 3 right now. Planetside 3 has not been officially announced, no matter what anybody seems to say. This is a direct quotes from Andy Seitz saying that Planetside 3 is not in development, has not been greenlit by his studio, has not been greenlit by overarching Daybreak Games, etc., etc. So at this point, as of February 23rd, 2020, we can put the Planetside 3 talk to rest until we actually get an official announcement from Daybreak Games that Planetside 3 and Rogue Planet Games that Planetside 3 will be coming out. Polygon did ask that if given the new studio structure, if Daybreak would publish Planetside 3, should it get made. And Andy replied that the studio would do whatever it needs to do to continue moving the franchise forward. Ideally, that's with Daybreak. If there's alternate means of publishing and Daybreak is okay with that, then we'd be good to go, so long as that means we're able to continue delivering what we want to with Planetside. So it's still kind of up in the air, obviously, who would produce Planetside 3, whether it would be Daybreak Games or whether it would be Rogue Planet Games. I would hope, personally, this is me, Derringer speaking, personally, that Rogue Planet Games would continue to publish something like Planetside 3, and that Daybreak Games would just be the overarching, thing above Rogue Planet Games and not the actual creator, developer, producer, publisher, etc. of Planetside 3. I think we've got a lot of good interaction with this new dev team of Planetside 2 right now, and I think as long as they continue the goodwill that they have right now, that I could see them definitely pushing out a Planetside 3 as an all-new game moving forward. So, again, this topic more than anything is just to kind of quell any Planetside 3 rumors and note that Planetside 3 is not in development and it has not been greenlit at this point. So now let's go back to Planetside 2 from Planetside 3 talk. And there is a recent post, and this is something that's actually been ongoing for a little while now within the Planetside 2 community. And I know the real Dr. Moneypants is one of the main people behind this. And this is the push to get people to give positive reviews to Planetside 2 on Steam. Because, as we know, there is a big game update coming in the next couple days. And what we want to do, players like me, players like Dr. Moneypants, we want to get more eyes on Planetside 2. And to get more eyes on Planetside 2, and to get those eyes looking at it to say, well, yeah, I want to play something like this, that we need positive reviews on Steam, because I think the majority of people are most likely going to download this on Steam and play this on Steam. So the main question is, how do I do something like that on Steam? So the good news, it's really simple. Go over to Steam, log into your account, search for Planetside 2, and if you've never left a review for Planetside 2, there will be an option, if it's in your Steam library, to write a review for Planetside 2. It's as simple as that. So if you've been putting this off, the goal right now, and again, Dr. Moneypants had put this most recent post out there, but I know this is a real push that Archie has been doing on his channel as well, and I probably should say that I think this is Archie's idea prior to Dr. Moneypants himself. But again, right now, it's sitting at 82% positive for overall. However, of recent reviews, we're at 89% positive for recent reviews, which means as of this recording right now, we're 1% away from that 90% goal of recent reviews. I'm going to leave my review after. Actually, I'm going to go in and update my review. I think I did a review a while ago. If not, I'm going to put a new review in and make sure I put a positive one out here, just to get more, to try and hit that 90% mark. And again, if you've written a review in the past and your opinion on everything has changed and you want it was negative, and you want to change it to positive, you can go and update your review, and then go ahead and change whatever you want, change it to positive, add more stuff to it or whatnot. But again, really the goal here is to get us to 90% positive in the recent reviews. And again, we're at 89% right now, and you can see where we are if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, or not, like halfway down on Planetside 2 page on Steam. You can see where the customer reviews are, and you can see the recent reviews. There are 1,361 recent reviews, and within the last 30 days, and 89% of those are positive. So again, this is your chance to do your part to get people interested in this new game update that's coming, and maybe get some people to come back to the game itself. So I'm doing my part to make sure you guys know about it as well. This is the one thing you can do for me this week. This is it. All right, last topic this week is regarding Russian and Chinese translations for Planetside 2. And last week there was a big post on it, and it wasn't even something I covered on the show, because I'm not going to lie, I didn't think how feasible anything like this was. But there was a big call from the Russian community to make Russian translations for Planetside 2. Obviously, Miller has a huge Russian contingency to it, and I guess it makes perfect sense. Being in America, we don't, stuff like this doesn't fly around here because, we all speak English, and we expect our games to be in English. We expect every game to be in English. So this is kind of a different thing for me, hearing that so many players playing in a different country. Obviously, if you don't speak English, you're kind of fucked when it comes to Planetside 2, especially if you want to keep playing it. So the good news is Andy Seitz did reply to last week's topic about it. And he says that I can tell you that I've been working with the Daybreak localization team to get cost and timing estimates on this. I hope to have an update on confirmation and timing sometime next week. Just to set expectations, it's several weeks of work from start to finish, if/when we make the decision to move forward with this. This was, a week or so ago that he posted that. This past week, he posted an update that said, I just wanted to confirm that we are proceeding with both formal Russian and Chinese translations for Planetside 2. I should have a specific time frame of when the translation should be live later this week, but it's likely 4 to 6 weeks from start of translations to publishing to the live servers. Again, to confirm, Russian and Chinese translations are officially a go. So I think that's huge news. Again, if you're someone foreign playing, foreign, I'm sorry. If you're someone in Russia or speaks Russian, or someone in China speaks Chinese, playing Planetside 2, and this is a great way to get the game in your native language to make it better for you to play Planetside 2. So, again, this is not something that we normally have to deal with in the United States because everything's in English here, but I can clearly empathize that it's probably a pain in the ass if you don't speak English yet play Planetside 2. So I guess this is really good news for you guys, and I'm excited for you guys as well. And that's the last piece of news this week, so let's move on to housekeeping.
Housekeeping. Housekeeping.
Come back later, please.
Housekeeping.
Not now.
Housekeeping.
Go away.
I coming anyway?
So no emails this week. That's fine. I do want to once again, though, give a shout out to Vanifac, my newest patron over on Patreon. I really, really appreciate your support, Vanek. And again, this week's show is dedicated to you. But that's going to be it for this week's show. How can you get in touch with me or the show itself? Your first stop should be to visit my website, www.instantactionpodcast.com. That's where you can find the link if you'd like to become a patron like Vanifac did this week. You can also email me at instantactionshow@gmail.com. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, I will read your email on the show and respond to it. You can also follow the show on Twitter at InstActPodcast. I promise to do a better job this week policing my Twitter account, unlike last week. For those who aren't aware, I made a little error uploading last week's show to the website where I uploaded the audio for episode 247 instead of episode 248. And for some reason, I did not get any Twitter notifications that had happened. Even though people were tweeting about it, I did get a message on Reddit from Arai, and I was able to correct it pretty quickly, but I felt bad that I didn't respond to a lot of you on Twitter that posted comments about it. So please accept my humble apology for that. I should have been more on top of the Twitter account to catch that. However, in closing, if you've enjoyed this week's show, please leave me a review on your podcast listening avenue of choice, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or anywhere else. Also, feel free to tell your friends and outfit mates about the show, especially the ones returning for the Escalation update. And finally, thanks for listening, and keep spamming that join combat, formerly known as Instant Action button. Derringer out.